Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, takeover news and general chit-chat show where we're going to be discussing all things Manchester United. And I hate how negative everything is. I hate how bad everything is. And I've just watched Spurs and Man City, and you look at Spurs who've got a bigger injury crisis than us, and you look how they played against Man City versus how we played against Man City. You look at Newcastle, who've got bigger injury lists than us, and they absolutely played us out the park. And there's a point where you can make so many excuses about our injuries, our luck with VAR, but the football we're playing is not good enough. Tottenham and Newcastle have more, if not the same amount of injuries as us, and they are still putting in better performances. They're still playing a better style of football. And it's got me in a point where I'm particularly worried about Erik ten Hag. I honestly think that this could be his last month at United if he doesn't pull it together, because we've got Chelsea, we've got West Ham, we've got Bayern, and we've got Liverpool. And Jose Mourinho was kind of in this situation. He went to Anfield on the 17th of December 4 years ago and got sacked when we lost to Anfield. Ten Hag is going to Anfield on the 17th of December. There's a feeling and there's an expectation, and actually, if Ten Hag goes on a losing streak versus Chelsea and West Ham and then goes and loses at Anfield, that will be the end of him, as there reportedly are fears in the club that he's losing the dressing room. But should Ten Hag be sacked? I am obviously Ten Hag in, because I think there's so many problems with the players at the club, the attitude of the players. They've thrown so many managers under the bus, and there's a big problem with recruitment and ownership that I am Ten Hag in. But I look at Tottenham, I look at Newcastle, the way they're playing with their injuries. Ange hasn't been there very long. I look at the way that we are set up and I say, look, Ten Hag's got to change. He's got to adapt, because if Ten Hag continues to be stubborn, then unfortunately I'll have to be Ten Hag out, because the only way we can turn it around is, one, if he manages better and gets the players on his side, because the players are a disgrace. And the main reason I'm not Ten Hag out is because I think that these players are an absolute disgrace and they throw every manager under the bus, whoever, and I think the recruitment is a disgrace. So I am Ten Hag in. But for me, if we come end of the season and we are playing like this, these crap tactics that aren't working, McTominay's playing, then I will be Ten Hag out, because I sit here and I think, you didn't want McTominay, you wanted Amrabat, and now all of a sudden you're playing McTominay over Amrabat when McTominay's been crap, but he scored a few goals, but he doesn't get involved in the game. Amrabat needs to play over McTominay. Varane needs to come back in the squad. You talk about work rate, but you let Rashford get away with murder. I do sit here as someone that is Ten Hag in, because I want Ten Hag to succeed. If we sat Ten Hag, we've got an interim to the end of the season. And because these players have already given up, things won't get better with an interim. We've got to hope Ten Hag turns it around. I'm all for giving the manager a lot of time, but Ten Hag's got to change. He's got to be less stubborn. He's got to change his tactics, because the football we are playing is abysmal and it's making me depressed. I want Ten Hag to succeed. I want him to turn it around. But he's lost some of the players, you can tell. The football we're playing is poor, but his tactics, his man management, it could cost him his job. We've got some big games out. It could cost him his job. Guys, do hit that like button for Glazers out. And, of course, subscribe down below if you're new. What a cracking game, Spurs versus Man City. And do you know what the best part of that game was? Man City were through on goal and the referee blew the whistle. Do you know why that is fantastic? Because Man City, I know the referee's awful, but Man City have been so lucky with referee calls. So lucky. They almost got a penalty in the last minute versus Spurs, which, bear in mind, was never a penalty, but that was the exact same foul Højlund did and Rodri. Man City this season have had so many jammy decisions, so many jammy penalties, that I have to say I'm glad that ended 3-3, but then I'm also not glad because now Arsenal are comfortably at the top, and I'm like, no. But I mean, we'll talk about the Spurs-Man City game in a bit, but we are here to talk about United. But I wanted to just talk about Spurs because it relates to Ange, Ten Hag as well. Alex said, biggest issue I noticed is that he was evolving the squad and play last season, but between injuries and non-management, we've reverted to the worst of Oli, and that's the problem. I saw promising things last season. The reason I am Ten Hag in is because of the promising things I saw last season, because of the fact that our players are an absolute disgrace, that they will throw any manager under the bus, and some of them need to go, and he wasn't fully backed in the summer. That's why I'm Ten Hag in. From what I saw last season, from what these players are like, and the poor recruitment that I don't think is Ten Hag's fault that people blame Ten Hag for. I want big clear out in the summer. I want the players gone. I want the recruitment to improve so we can play the way that Ten Hag wants to play. Because Ten Hag wants to play a very different way to what we're playing, but he can't because he doesn't trust the players to be able to do that. So he's playing this awful Ollie ball to suit the players that we have. But that is also not working. It is grinding out results. And the way we set up tactically, our passing lanes, I spoke about this in my 5 things we learned video earlier. We are probably the worst set up team in the Premier League out of possession, which is why we are not winning games and why we're conceding so many shots. But he's persisting with that tactic. He's not committing the fullback to the press, and then he's persisting to play McTominay, who had less than 30 touches in 100 minutes of football. Bear in mind, it only took Maino, Lewis Smiley, Bruno, and Joel Linton 40 minutes to make 30 touches. It took McTominay 100 minutes to make 30 touches. We've got a passenger in midfield that he is persisting by, and it's so frustrating as a United fan as well. He's fallen out and alienated many of the winners thus caught from the team last season. Ollie's rotten court isn't the answer exactly. Look, McTominay is not the answer. He's Man United through and through. Ten Hag is picking McTominay because he can't trust other players. Screw it. You signed Mount, you signed Amrabat, you wanted McTominay gone in the summer. Mount's obviously not available. Get rid of McTominay, bring in Amrabat. Casemiro's not available, but I want to see either Amrabat or Casemiro next to Maino, because the way we set up in midfield with this 1-6, whether it's Amrabat, Maino or Casemiro, this 1-6 is basically being tasked to do two players' jobs. It's ridiculous. It doesn't matter who the 6 is. Rodri would struggle. Declan Rice would struggle. We have one number 6 that's being tasked to do two players' job, and Maino's done a really good job, particularly for an 18-year-old. And then he's got these 2 8s, and Bruno is Bruno. We let Bruno do his thing. I actually have a bit of sympathy for Bruno because Bruno produced some really good moments on the ball yesterday, but he's brought down by poor players around him. And Bruno gets a lot of stick. He's the captain of United, but you look at Bruno at Portugal, good players around him, what he produces. You look at Bruno at United, bad players around him. That midfield of McTominay needs to be swapped. The best game we played with McTominay was when he dropped deep and played next to Eriksen versus Copenhagen. Then Rashford went and got a red. We need to play Amrabat next to Maino, and we need to play Amrabat deep. 100 million%, that is what we need to do, or we're going to struggle. Ten Hag should walk away. I mean, if I'm him, I look at the squad and I would at this rate, but I wouldn't actually, but I don't think he will. But you look at the ownership, you look at the squad, it feels like he's going to go. We can't keep sacking managers, but the manager has to drop the piss poor players. He's no different to Southgate at the moment. If he keeps playing Rashford, McTominay is going to sack himself. I agree, and he needs to get over this Varane thing. We're not. If we were playing out from the back, fair enough with Luke Shaw and Maguire, but we're going along every time with Onana, and we're talking about dropping Varane for passing lanes, but we're not playing out from the back, so you might as well play Varane. His physicality could have been good. Scott, Martial, Maguire, Lindelof, and others aren't the future yet. They've slipped back in exactly. Now, to be fair to Maguire, he's actually been all right, but the rest of them have been shocking, and they need to go. And I still can't get my head around the Varane thing. I really can't. Look, I'm Ten Hag in because I know if we sack him, we've got an interim to the end of the interim manager to the end of the season, and those pathetic players will win again after throwing another manager under the bus. But I can't stay Ten Hag in for much longer if he's going to persist with the same tactics that aren't working, which is why the title of the video is I Can't Believe Ten Hag Said This, because I'll tell you what Ten Hag said, and this has really wound me up today. He basically said, you know, we were in the game until we conceded the goal. We were not in the game. We were absolutely dreadful. He was very positive. He's saying that we didn't play well, but, you know, we had some moments we could have maybe made it 1-1 if, you know, Maguire wasn't offside. Well, no, we probably would have lost 4-0 any other day. But he said things like this. He said, this Man United team is resilient. We have a plan to keep going. I will talk to my team, but we stayed in the game until the very end. We had some very good chances. We scored a goal, but it was offside. It could have been a draw. That is what Ten Hag said. He said, the team is resilient. No, the team is the least resilient team in the Premier League. This team is the opposite of resilient. He then says, we have a plan. We must keep going. The plan's not working. We've seen the plan every game this season. It is not working. You don't have a plan. You don't have a plan because you wanted McTominay sold, you begged for Amrabat, and now Amrabat can't get in the team, and McTominay's Mr. Undroppable because he scored 2 goals versus Brentford and has been absolutely useless since. McTominay does nothing. McTominay can do those box-crashing runs and get a goal, which is, it's great and it's brilliant. 1 in every 10 games when it works. But McTominay has a third of the touches any other midfielder has on the pitch. He hides. He does not help in progression. He does not help in build-up. He does not work in possession. He's not even tracking back to help out Maino. He's not even covering the ground defensively. But you have a plan that involves the players that you were desperate to sell in the summer and doesn't involve the players that you brought in. You have a plan to play this 1-6 isolated on his own with 2 8s above. It's not working, and we've conceded the most shots in our last 6 games, and teams are playing through us. You've got a plan which involves all three attackers being starved. We can talk about the fact that our attackers have not produced this season number-wise, but why don't we talk about the fact that Manchester United are the fourth lowest in the Premier League for final third entries? Fourth lowest. That we're not getting the ball into the final third because of the lack of balance in midfield. But we're persisting with the same midfield, the same tactics that are not working. And I like Ten Hag. I want him to do well. But if I'm a Man United player and I know he never wanted McTominay and I know he never wanted Maguire, and all of a sudden he's abandoning the players he signed and playing the players that I know he never wanted, and his plan at the start of the season is very different to his plan now, and he's telling us this is his plan, I'm confused as a Man United player to what the manager's doing. And the leaks that the players are so confused and don't get what Ten Hag is doing are somewhat credible. They're right. If I'm a Man United player, I'm thinking, what is this manager doing? This is not working. Are the fullbacks committing to the press or not? Why is the midfield so open? Why is he playing these players that he wanted sold? What is his plan? As if I was a United player, I would be questioning Ten Hag on what is his plan. And the Man United players, I guarantee you are doing that. In fact, I think most are doing that. But what I cannot excuse from the Man United players is their lack of effort. It took them to the 85th minute to turn on yesterday. It took them to the 85th minute to play the ball, to actually work, to div a crap. I know that Ten Hag's tactics support, and I know that we're going to get caught out a lot this season unless Ten Hag changes it. And if Ten Hag doesn't change it, he will be sacked within the next few months. 100%, because the way we play makes it impossible, and I'm going to get an image up in a second, but the way we play makes it impossible for us to do patterns of play and structures in possession because of our general positionists. And also it makes it so easy to play for us out of possession, which is the reason we can't have control of games. It's the reason we keep giving away 2-goal leads. The way we play is on Ten Hag. The in-game management is on Ten Hag. His inability to make subs is on Ten Hag. And if he doesn't change it up, he will get sacked. I want him to change it up, but he's incredibly stubborn. He needs to change it up. But what I will give Ten Hag is that half his players aren't even trying. If Ten Hag's players gave 110%, as poor as the tactics were, maybe we could have got something from that game because we were dominated. And you look at Anthony Gordon and you look at Almiron's work rate and you compare it to Garnacho. You look at the space that Newcastle were given out wide, Livramento, particularly with Gordon on the overlap. Wan-Bissaka didn't have a good game. I felt sorry for Wan-Bissaka because he had to defend such a large area of space, mark two players because Rashford wasn't tracking back. I felt sorry for Kobbie Mainoo. He was chasing shadows because he had to defend such a large area of space because Anthony wasn't tracking back. It was absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. We can't keep sacking managers, but it has to change. It has to change. I don't want Ten Hag sacked because I want him to have time. I know that he's a good manager and I know that these players are a disgrace. Ten Hag, but I have to think you wanted to sign these players and now you're playing the Ollie players. I want Ten Hag to stop. I generally would rather us lose 4 games. I'd rather us lose more games, but I see a vision. I see a project. I see what Ten Hag's trying to do than this same crap to try and grind out results. I want Ten Hag to play the way that he wanted to play at the start of the season with the players that he envisioned being at United at the start of the season. You didn't plan for McTominay. You didn't plan for Maguire. You planned for this player. You planned for that player. Play as if you planned. Play the style of football that you actually want to play. And yes, we might drop points. And yes, we might pick up results because we don't have a lot of players in the squad that can play that football and because we've got injuries and people are missing. But just play it. Get rid of the players that don't suit it in the summer and bring in the players that do suit it in the following summer. And at least that way, if I can see a style of play that actually sometimes works, I can back you. Like I look at Chelsea. Chelsea have less points than us. Chelsea have been worse than us in moments, but there's a few times Chelsea have played this season where I can see what Poch is trying to do, and I can see that once Poch has more time and some better players and some better recruitment, Poch might build something. I can't see that at United, and that is particularly troubling. Thank you for the super chat, and Parker falling out with champions, training, injuries, players, buys melons, playing Ollie ball with Ollie team, saves a player more than conceding 30 shots. Now, I like the positivity from Ten Hag because the negativity from Rangnick meant he lost the dressing room, but it's getting to this point. Like, it's bad. Yeah, Joe Linton had absolutely McTominay in his pocket. Do hit that like button, guys, if you haven't already as well. The attitude of some of the players is unbelievable. Martial and Rashford yesterday were dreadful. Reverting to Deadwood, Ollie favourites could have turned the dressing room upside down. It's baffling. And Ollie lost his job because he lost the dressing room because he continuously picked Maguire, McTominay and Rashford when they were playing bad. Erik ten Hag seems to be doing that. It's like those players run the dressing room, or those players are the ones that he can trust. And I don't know why they're the ones he can trust, because they're the ones that threw Ollie under the bus. They're the ones that threw Rangnick under the bus. Now, I think Maguire's been very good, and I'm not going in on Maguire, and I'm not saying that McTominay has a bad attitude. But what I'm saying is the players that we're playing are the ones that threw Ollie under the bus. When the going got tough under Ollie, they gave up. So Ten Hag reverting to these players that threw Ollie under the bus because Ten Hag thinks he can trust them over the players he signed, I think it makes no sense. And there's always the stereotype that Dutch people are stubborn, which is not the best stereotype. But with Ten Hag, he is ticking that stereotype box as well. Diego is spot on here. Players need to give more intensity to the play and leave everything on the pitch as well. Exactly. Jackie says Erik ten Hag was screaming at Martial and Rashford and Anthony to track back yesterday what he can do when the players don't react to the match plan on the pitch. And I agree. I agree to an extent. Ten Hag's planning and our positional awareness is crap. Our tactics is crap. And I will blame Ten Hag for that. But at the same time, when players aren't committing to the press, when the wingers are not tracking back, that is a disgrace. We can criticise Ten Hag's tactics all he wants, but at the end of the day, the reason I am not Ten Hag out is, one, if you sat Ten Hag, we've got a dreadful interim to the end of the season and these players win. But these players will throw the next manager under the bus. It's not about Ten Hag. It's about the fact that we've got players that are throwing multiple managers under the bus time and time again. And Ten Hag has to tactically improve. If Ten Hag continues these tactics to the end of the season and it's not working, you do have to evaluate at the end of the season. Maybe we bring in another manager, a long-term manager with a better philosophy, because he's had all season to turn it around, and there's a point where you can't blame injuries. And although the players we have aren't good enough, there's a point where you go, well, he's fallen out with the players. But right now, I want the players gone before the manager. And I want to show you something. I want to show you a statistic here, which I think is particularly interesting. But I think Ten Hag could go. Just with the games we've got coming up, I think Ten Hag could go soon. And we're going to get into that. But I said this. Tactically, Ten Hag is getting a lot wrong, but the players are a bigger problem. 4 of the starters were under Mourinho. 7 of the starters were starters under Ollie. And 8 of the starters were starters under Rangnick. These are players that threw Mourinho under the bus. And most of them threw Ollie and Rangnick under the bus. And they're throwing Ten Hag under the bus. Whether his tactics are crap or not, they are throwing Ten Hag under the bus, because they've realised the going has got tough. Instead of putting some effort in, instead of giving a crap about this football club to turn it around, it's easier for about 70% of those players to go, you know what, we're not playing good football. Instead of taking responsibility that they're overplayed and they're overpaid and nowhere near as good as they think they are, let's blame the manager. The problem is we've got an attitude problem. A lot of these Man United players, because they're on high wages, because they're at Man United, think they're better players than they are. They have this ego. They have this attitude. They think they are miles better than they are. So they think, okay, things are going wrong. It's obviously not my fault. The reason I'm playing bad is obviously because of the manager. Is what some of the players are going to be thinking. So, let's just play crap and throw the manager under the bus. But 8 of these players were playing under Rangnick. 7 of these players were starters under Solskjaer. 4 were starters under Mourinho. The pattern is the players. The pattern is the Glazers. Because every manager that comes to United is a good manager. They come to United as bad. And nearly every player that comes to United, a good player, comes out as a bad player that's moany and whingy and whiny. There's something toxic about this club where everything good is bad. And I feel sorry for Højlund. I feel sorry for Maino. I feel sorry for Garnacho. I feel sorry for them because they are the future of this football club. They are great players. They've got everything right, the attitude, the personality right. But are they going to turn sour and be infected with the virus of United? Because right now I look at United and I think long-term rebuild. Luke Shaw, yeah. Maino, Bruno, Garnacho, Højlund. 5 players at United that I think are the only players I want to see here in 3 years. And I'm worried in 3 years they'll be sour because they've been at United so long. And I said, we need to have this summer clear out where every player Ten Hag wants gone, we go. Because if McTominay is sold in the summer like Ten Hag wants and we'd have brought in Gravenberch, and we'd be in a much different situation. We wouldn't be playing McTominay consistently. We'd have Gravenberch in midfield, who's a lot better, and maybe there'd have been more balance. If we'd have sold McTominay Maguire like he wanted, we'd have had Gravenberch and Todibo, 2 better players. But he's gone back to Ollie players. But if he had Gravenberch and he had Todibo, we could have played a more expansive way. So Ten Hag wanted these players sold. They weren't in the plans. He's now playing them. But because he's now playing them, we're playing a different way to how we wanted to play. We need to do that big clear out. We need to get players like Lindelof out that aren't good enough. Martial out. Rashford, I like Rashford, I'd back him. But the way he is playing is poor. But his lack of work rate is even more worrying. I'd even think about putting Rashford up the market right now. We need a massive clear out because we need 6-7 players. 6-7 players right now. We need to have a clear out like we've never had a clear out before. Do I think United will have that big clear out? Unfortunately not. I know what we're like. When we need to clear things out, we don't. But we need to get rid of 7, 8, 9, 10 players as well. We've got 500 people watching, so smash the like button as well. To the Ten Hag outers, who would you bring right now? Surely the next manager will have the same problem with the same players and won't play for the manager, and the players won't play for the manager. The cycle repeats itself. Exactly. This is why I'm with Ten Hag, because it's the cycle of this club. The players are toxic. Right now, if Pep Guardiola said, I want to come to Man United, I would sack Ten Hag on the spot. If Pep Guardiola was there and he said, I want to come to United, or Jurgen Klopp was there saying, I want to come to United, I'd sack Ten Hag on the spot right now. I would. I generally would. And then but I can't guarantee you that if Pep Guardiola came to United, he would succeed with these players. So if there's a world-class manager available, like a Pep, like a Jurgen Klopp, that wants to come to United, then sack Ten Hag, okay? But I'm talking world-class, not just a good manager, not De Zerbi, not Graham Potter. They're brighter managers, someone that's a proven winner. World-class manager, Pep Guardiola. Then you think of sacking Ten Hag. But that doesn't mean that we're going to succeed with the world-class manager because we know our players. We need to sack those players. Those players need to go. Those players need to be sacked, a lot of them. Before we even think of changing the manager, we need to write a list of every single player that has been at United too long, every single player that doesn't play expansive, good football, every single player that's causing a dressing room problem. And it doesn't matter if they're a 30 million player and we can only get 15 million for them. We sell them, we get them out of the club. Even if the squad's thin, we promote more youth players through because this club is toxic. It needs a reset. It needs an environment reset as well. Alex makes a good point here. We know Erik ten Hag is capable of top football. We saw it for years at Ajax. The X factor is, can he handle the pressure and egos at such a huge club? And the worrying thing is with the fallout with Varane, with the fallout with Ronaldo, maybe he can't. To be fair to him, I think Sancho was just an absolute dickhead. But I think you look at it as well. We've got 7 toxic players. I'm so sick of this predictable cycle. It's boring when it happened with Ollie, and it's no coincidence. It's mostly Ollie's old starting 11 at the moment. We're back in the same situation. We are where we were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we're saying, okay, we'll have a 3-year rebuild, and hopefully in the 3rd year, we'll be pushing for titles and stuff. There's not. Alice, your video has stopped sound. Video stopped. Sounds okay. Is the video still working? I hope it is as well. Problem is, even with Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in, the appetite is to totally overhaul the squad, especially with the Glazers. It's still head of the snake. Yeah, will we have that clear out? Every single summer, we get reports that United are going to have a big clear out. Every single summer, we get reports of, yeah, United are going to have their biggest clear out ever. United are going to get rid of this player. United are going to get rid of that player, this, that. Every single summer, we have those United clear-out reports. And every single summer, half the players that we put up for sale in the summer are not sold. It's very obvious the manager doesn't want them, but they're not sold because we're not going to spend the money. And all of a sudden, those players then find themselves back in the team. We know that the manager never wanted them to begin with, so we know that the manager's abandoned their plan and they're playing the players they never wanted. And then it gets toxic, and it's just that cycle as well. I do apologise if my Wi-Fi is just going to a bit iffy as well. Rashford only plays for a contract. It feels like that as well. Erik ten Hag isn't maximising things, but you have to be blind or have an agenda to say sack him. Players are weak-minded, lazy under Ollie. It's simple now. Yeah, I'm Erik ten Hag until the end of the season. I've decided no matter how bad things get, I am giving ten Hag to the end of the season because an interim is not going to change anything at all. At the end of the season, if ten Hag's tactics are just so bad to the point where even though the players are doing crap, he's not making any tactical changes and I cannot see at all what he's trying to do, and there's a good manager available, I sack ten Hag. But the most important thing now is actually get rid of the board, get a proper recruitment team in that's going to be able to buy the players that are actually going to suit the way that ten Hag wants to play, but also get rid of these players. Get rid of these players that are throwing everything under the bus as well. No style of play. Can Erik ten Hag handle the pressure? I'm not sure as well. There's lots of problems at United. Liverpool winning as well doesn't help. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, all in that title race, it doesn't help. There is reports coming out from decent sources like Plettyberg, basically saying we're going to go for Todibo in January. We've got other sources saying that Ratcliffe's going to be announced tomorrow. We've got sources saying that Greenwood could be coming back. We've got sources about Manchester United going to extend Maino's contract. But do you know what I want to get up? And this wound me up. I tell you what, everything that happened at Man United, there was one thing that just really wound me up when I read this yesterday about the players. It really wound me up. And I think that is just how selfish they are towards the fans who pay good money to watch them play like that. And this report was a disgrace. Absolute disgrace when I saw this. Steve McLaren had to wait at the top of the tunnel to tell Man United players to turn around and applaud the travelling fans. The United players went in. They didn't want to applaud the fans. Steve McLaren had to say, no, you're going back and applauding the fans. The egos on these players. You are paid ridiculous money. You show up, you don't give 100%, and you'll make an excuse that it's the manager's fault. You throw another manager under the bus, and then you won't applaud the fans who've been stuck there in -2 degrees, cheering you on. I could barely watch. That game was dreadful. From minute 1 to minute 90, that game was dreadful. 5 minutes spent at the end was good. But that game was so bad. We were so bad. We were embarrassingly bad. But our players, they didn't even want to applaud the fans. Who do you think you are? Why do these players think, some of them think, that they are bigger than the club, bigger than the fans? We've got players that think they're better than they are. They've got agents, they've got negative people around them saying you're better than you are. So when things go wrong, the players just think it's the way that the manager's asking them to play. Maybe not the fact that they're not given 100%, or the fact that maybe they're not good enough to play for a team like Manchester United. It just gets incredibly toxic as well. Ten Hag has not spent 400 million at all. He asks for the players he wants and doesn't get control of the money and spend it. Facts, yeah. Ten Hag giving 400 million to spend and wasting, it's a bit of a myth. Look, I don't get why he had this obsession with Mason Mount and prioritised him and then doesn't play Mason Mount. But you've got to think, Ten Hag says the players he wants. Ten Hag got half of the players he said that he wanted. And the money we would have spent on those players would have been a lot less if we had competent people. Ten Hag wanted Anthony when he was 40 million. He ended up being twice the price. We would have saved 50 million on Anthony and Martinez had we just got them when Ten Hag originally wanted them, but the board pondered. Ten Hag wanted Frankie de Jong, he never got him. We got Casemiro, complete different profile to Frankie de Jong. You know, Ten Hag wanted Kim and Jay, never got him. Ten Hag wanted Todibo, never got him. Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane, never got him. You could say that we spent this much money on Ten Hag and Ten Hag spent that much money, but if we had a proper director of football, we would have spent £100 million less and we would have probably brought in 2 more players or had higher quality calibre of players coming in. The recruitment is bad, but Ten Hag just says who he wants. He gets told yes, no, gets third, fourth options. The board spend the money, the board overpay and use up more of his transfer budget than expected. You can't blame Ten Hag for the 400 million. You can blame Ten Hag for maybe prioritising Mason Mount, prioritising someone like Anthony and them not being used or good enough. You can't say, oh, Ten Hag spent 400 million because that isn't him. I think Maguire was your top player. That says something. Maguire's been our best player. It says something. Luke Shaw was second best as well. Newcastle fans are proper supporters. Be back in, Alice. Thank you very much, Colton, as well. We had 2 world-class managers in Van Gaal and Mourinho. They both failed because they were thrown under the bus by the players. I mean, the football was boring, but they were thrown under the bus by the players. No accountability, no responsibility for the overpaid players, all enabled by useless ownership. The ownership, for me, if we'd have Qatar in, I'd be in a much better place. But look, Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to make some changes that need to be made. I think some of the changes that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is reportedly going to be making are very positive changes, and I'm a big fan of some of them. But we still got the Glazers here. We still got the toxic Glazers here involved at the club. And I still sit here and I think and I worry at the end of the day that the Glazers are not going to let us clear out this player and that player. The Glazers aren't going to let us bring in this player and that player. It still feels incredibly toxic, and I absolutely hate that. It's so toxic at the club right now as well. Mourinho was finished when he came to United. Maybe he was, but I feel like Pep Guardiola could have come to United, and I still think that he would, unless we changed our transfer recruitment policy and backed him for 4 seasons, I think he could fail. Pep nearly failed in his first season at Man City. He was almost considered a failure and asked to be sacked. You've got to remember that as well. The fans travelled for nearly 3 hours to get there and 3 hours to get back. But the players didn't even want to clap them, which was a joke as well. It's surprising Maguire's playing well. Our player's extremely negative as of late, so it suits him. Yeah, I think it does. I need Varane back in the team. Do you know what was that? Do you know what worked so well for us last season? Was that core of Varane, Casemiro, Martinez. That core of Varane, Casemiro, Martinez made us so stable. Casemiro hasn't been great this season, but part of it is because of the system. Martinez was the glue. He's gone, and now he's not playing Varane. Varane, Martinez, Casemiro go back to a system where there's a player like Fred playing deeper next to Casemiro, so that will be Maino now. Boom. I want to see, and I'll get it up on the screen here. I'll tell you exactly what I want to see Ten Hag do. Stop this 4-3-3 crap. You're going to go back. You're going to go back to the pivot, and you're going to play a 4-2-3-1. Everybody's fit. This is the squad I want to see. Anana, I'd probably pick Wan-Bissaka over Dalot, but it's debatable, that one. Sure. I'm going with Licha and I'm going with Varane. Back in January, when everyone's fit, I want to see this. I want to see then a pivot, because I think that we don't have the players to play with one so high up. I want to see sort of Casemiro being partnered with either Maino or Amrabat. None of this McTominay Eriksson bullshit. Bit more balance there with Maino and Amrabat. I think that Casemiro and Maino would work really well together. Bruno more advanced. And then Højlund up top. If Rashford's not picked up form, then I don't want Rashford anywhere near the team. Garnacho on the left. And to be honest, if Amad Diallo's back, stick him on the right wing. That's what I'd do in bloody January. I tell you that. I'd tell you that. And Amad Diallo's not kicked a ball all season. That's what I'd do. Back four, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Shaw, Malacia fit until Leach is back. I think Martinez could be back before Malacia at this point as well. How can any manager work when the players choose who they want to play? We need ownership that is behind the manager and nowhere to hide for the toxic players. I've had enough of this rubbish football. Erik ten Hag needs to go. The football is rubbish. There's not an excuse for how bad the football is, and part of it is on Ten Hag, because you look at Ange Postecoglou, you look at Eddie Howe, and you also have to say, well, Ten Hag isn't getting these players to like him or play for him. Charisma-wise, Ten Hag needs to improve. But for me, we've seen it time and time again. You sack Ten Hag, I just think the next manager will be thrown under the bus by these players. That we're at a point where it goes beyond sacking Ten Hag. It goes beyond sacking the manager. When the players consistently throw manager after manager after manager under the bus, I'm at that kind of point now. I'm done with it. I'm done with manager this being thrown under the bus, manager that being thrown under the bus. That it's as bad as the football is. I've got to back Ten Hag, but Erik ten Hag not letting Varane near the 11 is just weird as well. The starting 11 is poor. 151 likes, guys. Let's go for 300 likes. Does anyone seriously think if we keep changing the manager, eventually one of them will get these players to work hard and stop being mental snowflakes and become a decent side? The pattern is obvious. And I agree with endless motion. I think you sum that up perfectly. It's a cycle. It's a pattern. Maybe Ten Hag will have to go in the summer if his tactics are very naive and stuff. But the players need to go as well. If you're going to get rid of Ten Hag, get rid of the players with them and complete rebuild. But the players need to go first. The ownership should go. Then the new ownership should clean out the players. And then we assess Ten Hag in terms of tactics and stuff as well. Man City, I tell you what, they were raging at the referee earlier. I've just seen clips of how angry Man City got at the referee. And it's mad to think that when things don't go Man City's way, they make a massive fuss at the referee. Don't they? I am glad that Man City dropped points, but it's also the frustration that Spurs go with a worse injury situation than us, and they can rock up to Man City and take points. They really can. I'm worried Arsenal are going to win the Premier League. Look what I've just seen. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is the future of Man United. This here on my screen is the future of Man United. The big question mark is, where do we go from here? The big question mark is, where do we go from here? Todibo, right centre-back. Frimpong, right back. DM, probably... I mean, I'd say Tchouaméni, but that's never going to happen. DM, maybe Amadou Onana. And then I'd put Bruno in there. I think Bruno's quality. And then right winger, I'd go for Nico Williams. I'd go for Soulé, but I don't think Juventus will let him go. Or I'd go for Bakayoko. We need that rebuild, because those players probably the future. But there's not many of them. There's not many of them whatsoever. And that is worrying. That's embarrassing. Arsenal hopefully will bottle the league, but I'm scared they are. It's Man United. Yeah, it is Man United people as well. I hope Arsenal win the league. Anyone but City and Liverpool. I do and I don't, because Arsenal fans are unbearable. But I kind of want Tottenham to just go on a run and win the league, because it's not going to be United. It's either got to be Tottenham, Villa or Newcastle to produce something for us as well. I wish we had one of those Amazon Prime documentaries this season like Arsenal did, because fans need to know exactly what's happening behind the scenes. It's a mess. Yeah, but I think the more we know, the worse it is. Like, I know from some people I've spoken to that it is a bit of a mess behind the scenes. And the Sancho situation apparently has caused problems with other teammates from what I've heard. And it's definitely a bit of a mess behind the things. Man City fans were chanting cheat, cheat, cheat in the stadium at the referee, which is ironic for a club with 115 charges, which I 100% agree. It's weird to think that actually Man City have conceded more goals than Man United in the last 4 games, believe it or not, as well. But I wanted to read out this. I wanted to read out this here. I think this was quite a good tactical thread that kind of delves into United and some of the problems. And it was said, and I think you can see that. Yeah, you can. It was said here, Ange Postecoglou is sticking to his play style even without a single fit centre-back, going toe-to-toe with Pep's Man City. But I'm told every day that after spending 450 million, Leacher alone being out is the reason we have to play like peak Stoke against relegation battle sides. And that is the worrying thing. And this was a thread about this sort of thing. He said, firstly, we've seen a massive drop-off because we're missing first-team players like Maino. Maino coming back in has helped with us in possession and build-up. But we're not sticking to our core and philosophy. Brighton, City, Arsenal, Barcelona, Spurs, they've had injuries. They play the way they want. The argument is that we cannot execute certain tactical elements with backups, but we can with starters. The question seems to be our tactical intent is very dependent on quality, which is worrying because we just play the way you actually want to play tactically. Stop going back to Ollie ball because it suits the players. The argument is if the argument is that we can build up short and play through the press only if some players start, else we will have to go long. This means that the build-up is very reliant on the problem-solving ability of those players and not on coach patterns that everyone can execute. So Ten Hag needs to coach what we can't do without certain players. But it's noticeable that Leacher and Shaw are great problem solvers and build-up who can carry and pass out the press, but others can't. We struggle in first phase possession. This is also the main reason why Erik Ten Hag isn't a fan of rotation and dropping his best players in general, because he's so reliant on certain players. But he needs to teach the players and coach the players who aren't his regular starters how to play the way he wants, because that's what Ange is doing. While it's normal for teams to upgrade and get better players, relying on the monster/unique player ability to solve tactical gaps instead of patterns of play isn't good. You're always at mercy of many external factors like injuries, form, opposition quality, game state, which is 100% true. He needs to start coaching how he wants to play in tactical patterns, not relying on certain players to do that for him. And I thought that was quite a good thread as well. Even when players are fit, like Mount, Leach, Varane, Anthony, Shaw, Wan-Bissaka started, we often went long to bypass build-up, relying on the counter-press to create. And that's worrying. The way we're playing, the way we're setting up tactically is worrying. And I'm going to back Ten Hag, but he needs to coach the patterns of play. I need to see some football. I need to see something good, and I'm not. Man cheating with 115 charges, blaming the ref is laughable, yeah. So should Sancho be allowed to do what he likes and not apologise to the manager and post whatever he wants on social media? He needs to be sent packing. He will be sent packing. And I think getting Sancho out of the club will be a big positive thing as well. Drawn to Wigan away in the FA Cup third round as well. Erik Ten Hag remain the manager for Manchester United. Some players like Martial, Rashford leave the club. The toxic players need to leave. The players that aren't trying, the players that don't give a crap about this badge, they got to go before the manager as well. People don't like this, but Casemiro and Varane didn't win the Champions League at United, but they won the Champions League at Real Madrid. They're good players. And we didn't play Casemiro and Varane, and we were still dreadful yesterday. We need Casemiro, we need Varane. They're important players. Maybe not in the long term, but we play our best football with Casemiro, and we play our best football with Rafael Varane, and that is a fact, an absolute fact as well. And just the coach that a lot of people maybe thought Ten Hag was. But the difference between Ange and Ten Hag is Ange commits and has belief in his system. No matter who is injured, he still plays good football the way he wants to play. Whereas Ten Hag is changing the way he wants to play because of injuries, which is, I get to an extent. I think sometimes Ange has been too risky and it's cost him points. But he's changing the way he wants to play because of injuries. But he's changing the way he wants to play is so bad and not working. If Ten Hag was playing crap football and we were generally getting out results and we could see how we were winning games, I'd be more positive. But the football Ten Hag's playing is so bad. It is so bad that it's laughable. And I hate to be that negative, but it is. Why is he not using Pellistri? I think he had a bit of an injury and he's not the biggest fan. Although, to be honest, when Pellistri came on versus Galatasaray, his decision-making was poor. There's a story in the Express that Ratcliffe could allow Greenwood to return. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to talk about Greenwood come the end of the season, to be honest, because it's just irrelevant and all of that, and I don't want to get into it as well. How can a manager succeed at United when the owners don't give the footballing side a thought? Qatar was the answer, but we have hope with Jim and a sporting director can give the manager a chance. Yeah, we just got to hope Jim comes in and has a positive impact as well. Hopefully as well. Nicking 1-0 against Leicester was always going to dry up once we face real quality. And I said at the beginning of my watch along for United versus Newcastle, I said, guys, I hate to be negative, but to be honest with you, I think we could be in for a really bad game. I said Newcastle got the best work rate in the Premier League. I said the way we're playing, we've conceded so many shots in our last 4 games, so don't let that fool you at the fact that we're defensively vulnerable. I said a lot of things. I said we're defensively vulnerable. We've done this, we've done that wrong. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle played us off the park. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Gordon had a lot of space and Livramento had a lot of space. And unfortunately, I was right. But because I've been watching us this season, even when we were winning games, I could see the cracks just from watching us play this season to see that we were an absolute mess as well. But anyway, people, I'm going to wrap up the live stream here. I will be back live tomorrow. Please do hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe down below if you're new. Thanks for getting involved in the chat. Really good in the chat. We've not beaten a top 6 side this season. We've also not beaten a team away from home in the top 8 in over 2 years. Very poor. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow. See you then. Bye.